There it is. Hello and welcome back to the Spotlight Games Podcast for episode 121. Today we got a big old what we've been playing show. Hades 2, Animal Well. Well, I won't spoil everything, but what I will spoil is you, the audience, because joining us today is Jordan, aka Cognitive Clips. Welcome back, Jordan. How you doing?
I am great, Patrick. How are you doing?
I'm just fine. We can go ahead and address the elephant in the room. Cayman? He quit. He left the show. He said, I would rather get surgery than support this podcast anymore. I'm just kidding. That is what happened. He's not here because he's recovering. Go send some well wishes. Send your best wishes to our sweet
The dirtiest.
The dirtiest. We'll give him those dirty wishes. Probably back next week. You know, we don't want to. We're not here to force the boy, but he might be back next week. But in the meantime, we got Jordan, aka Cognitive Clips, today going by the name Animal Well, as we can see for those video watchers. We have a lot of video games to talk about because this is the Spotlight Games Podcast, where each week we spotlight the latest and the greatest in the world of video games. You can get it by subscribing to our YouTube channel at Spotlight Games Pod or by searching for Spotlight Games in your favorite podcast app. And hey, you can be on the show by tuning in as we record live Tuesdays at 8 p.m. Eastern Time on twitch.tv/Spotlight GameSpot. So be sure to follow us there so that you're notified when we go live so you can be part of the conversation. This week, we do not have an episode of The Last of Us Part 2 because I am going out of town tomorrow. Where am I going? I'll never tell. But we will be back next week. I know. I'm going to Mobile, Alabama. Next week.
You going leprechaun hunting or
going to a wedding, actually.
Same difference.
They have those in Mobile, turns out.
Leprechauns or weddings?
Yes. We will be back next week with another episode of The Last of Us Part 2 with Rose, but not this week. And finally, join the Discord. What are you doing? Pull the car over. Download Discord if you don't have it. Go to our bios and our socials. Click the link. Join the Discord. We got a fun little Discord where we discuss what we're playing or what we're watching. Like I shared my thoughts on Madam Web last night. What a flick. God damn. But we generally goof off together about video games. So if that sounds like something you like, click the link in the description. Click the link in the bio of our socials. Join the Discord. Jordan, I'm gabbing. I've been yabbing and gabbing. But we're here to talk today about video games. Ever heard of them?
I've heard rumors.
You've heard tell of the video game. But yeah, today, since I'm going out of town tomorrow and we didn't record last week because I streamed Hades 2, I thought, you know what? Even though the video game industry continues to burn around us, for the sake of time and for the sake of fun, for the sake of some capital F, let's just talk about what we've been playing. Because the truth is, you've not been on the show in a while. I've not been on the show in a while. We've been playing a lot of video games. A lot of stuff has come out. We've been playing these games, and we're going to talk about them. So, Jordan, I want to throw it to you first. As the esteemed, rumored guest, what have you been playing? What's top of mind for Cognitive Clips right now?
Again, judging by my name on StreamYards right now, Animal Well has taken over everything. Came out on the 9th. I actually didn't play it last night. But like between the 9th and the 12th, about 14
You didn't
hours.
play last night. Are you okay?
I'm good.
Okay. All right. Do we need to talk about it?
I needed to give myself a break. I needed to intentionally take a break because I was like every free moment over the weekend was with this game. It is phenomenal. I rolled credits after like 7.5 hours, but again, I've got over 14 on there on Steam with another hour or two on PS5 as well. Because it's just one of those games. There's so much to uncover and like just explore and find all this like random stuff that like it's just.
If I may,
you may
park the car for a second, Jordan. Skirt. You might want to get those brakes checked first of all.
Yeah, they're awful.
Bad brakes. Someone's listening, they're driving their car. Maybe they're a passive listener of Spotlight Games Pod. You know, they play the occasional game. Maybe they just like playing Animal Crossing. If they don't know what Animal Well is, what's Animal Well, Jordan?
It is the first open well type game.
But I walked right into that one.
So it's a Metroidvania. So a lot of exploration, a lot of there are no power ups in the traditional sense. Like you're not Samus getting stronger armor, stronger guns to blast away things because there's no real combat either. But you are exploring. You're finding items to help you get past puzzles, to help you traverse. Lots and lots and lots of puzzles. Pretty much every single room has some hidden thing in there or a puzzle that you need to solve to get past and get any further. So that's like the main draw of the game is just the endless labyrinth of exploring this well full of animals. It is very aptly named. Billy Basso pulled no punches, letting us know what this is about.
How do we know about Billy Basso? Just that he's made this game, or has he done anything before?
This is his first game.
Wow.
He worked on it for about 6 or 7 years solo. Literally the only other people that are on, like they're named, as far as like the website and stuff like that, somebody came in for marketing stuff, a year or two ago.
Okay.
And then of course, I forget his last name, but Jason, aka Video Game Donkey, he and his wife Leah started up their own video game publishing company, Big Mode, last year, and Animal Well was the first game that they signed for the publishing company. So he, got in again later on in the process. But as far as the actual development of this game, it's been just Billy Basso. Even the engine itself was built from scratch. So it's insane.
We have some allegations in the chat. Jordan. One Dumpster Boy STC says he puts animals in wells, serial abuser, shaking my damn head. Do you have is any comments on these accusations about Billy Basso and Animal Well?
The animals were already there.
Okay.
He just built the well around them.
Okay.
That's all.
Okay, we're going to get our researchers on it to make sure that what you're saying is true. But thank you for the comment, Jordan.
I actually in their official in the official games Discord, I took a screenshot of the Obadiah Stane yelling at the scientist and Iron Man, and I was like, Billy Basso built this game in a well with a box of animals.
Tony. But so it sounds like, from what I'm hearing and from what you've said, because I can hear and listen, I'm an active listener. Look it up. You're having a great time with this game. Would you say that this is easily your game of the year so far?
It is definitely in that conversation.
We're not going to say it's easy yet.
It's top 2 for sure.
Top 2. Okay.
Yeah.
Between this and Prince of Persia: The Lost Crown, is that still in the conversation?
Actually, this for me personally, it's between this and Grand Blue Fantasy Relink, and for a lot of the same reasons, because that game also had a lot of more stuff to do after the credits rolled.
Okay. Also takes place,
and it was worthwhile. Yes, and it's worthwhile content. It's not just like, like there's more stuff to explore. There's more things to do. So, just these kind of games are just giving me so much more to do, and they're just so much fun to play.
Sure.
I mean, you can go back and watch my VOD of when I was streaming, for the opening night, so to speak, for Animal Well premiere day, opening night. What the hell? But like every other room, I'm like just chuckling at something that I just saw, or like surprised by whatever animal it happened to be in the room that I wasn't expecting to see. There's so much love and like attention to detail in this game. So I'll shut up about it.
No, you don't have to shut up. But one thing we do love at Spotlight Games Podcast is love. We love here. So I'm glad that you're having a good time. I've also been playing this video game. I have been in the well. I have met many an animal in this well. And I'm not quite where you're at yet. And that's okay. We're two different people. Some disagree, but it is the truth. I've so far put, let's call it 90 minutes into this video game. So I'm not very far. So what I am sharing is but a taste of my experience with Animal Well, because I do intend on playing it more than what I've played. But for me so far, let me start with the good. Let's start with the positive. I think this game is incredible to look at and to listen to. I think it is an aesthetic triumph. Really like the vibes of this game, like the little meatball that you're playing as, whatever he is supposed to or is not supposed to be.
Right.
And it feels good. Like it's one of the first times, maybe the first time that I've on a PlayStation 5 chosen to use the D-pad actively. And I feel like because it feels good with it. Like normally I always am a stick guy, but I like the way that this game feels with the D-pad.
And the haptics on the PS5 controller.
And the haptics are phenomenal. Great. Absolutely. And I do really like the sense of exploration that this game has. Something that I didn't realize about this game before it came out and before you streamed it last week, which, as you mentioned, people can go watch the VOD of, was unlike, other Metroidvanias, this isn't combat focused. It is really like exploration and puzzle focused, which I think is really interesting. And I like that kind of, maybe would we call that a spin on the genre? Because I mean, I know Metroidvanias often are very much centered in exploration, but I feel like this one is more so than others centered around exploration, since there is not combat. Would you agree or disagree with that?
I would agree with that. Yeah.
And so I really like that about it. I like this feeling of I get into a room and I can usually pretty quickly ascertain, should I be here? Can I be here? Can I do like what I need to do to get from point A to point B? If not, I'm going to turn around and go look somewhere else. However, there is one big issue that I'm having with this game that I'm still hoping that I can get over. You and I talked about this offline, this idea that when you die in this game, you are slung back to a save point, which is, an old school, we're so used to in today's gaming landscape of like, you die, it picks you up the exact moment you died. Like we're so used to that immediate gratification of getting back in there. So I will say that like this complaint certainly is a newer complaint, I feel, in gaming. Like this didn't, it's not, it didn't used to be like this. It used to be like, this is how it always was. But I feel like a game like this, that is so centered around exploration and wants me to go try and fail, I am not having a good time being slung back to a safe point that sometimes is a little far from where I am. It's not always. Sometimes it's like 1 or 2 screens away, and getting back takes 10 seconds, if that. But there was one that you and I were talking about, one specific place where it seems, you look on IGN today and it's like, oh, maybe that place that I went to, I'm not supposed to go to anytime soon. But I just kept going and kept dying, and I kept having to spend like nearly 30 seconds getting back to that point, which doesn't sound like a lot of time. But when you've died a few times, it starts to add up and it starts to just feel like a grind already. And you had suggested to me, go elsewhere, start exploring other parts and see if you can eventually come back, and whether you figure out how to do it or not, maybe that'll, kind of help with that feeling. And what I can't say is whether or not that's true. I just didn't have enough time to put back into it to report on whether or not that idea works. I hope that it does, and I think that it will. But so far, my experience, I want it to be that 10 out of 10 that you're having. But right now, I feel like I'm having more of like a 6 to 7 out of 10 experience, which is still good.
Fair. Yeah,
it's still worth playing. Like I do walk away from my time so far and say, I think you should play this game, especially if you have PlayStation Plus. It's free on PlayStation Plus right now. But I think you had said in the Discord something that I think is based on your and my experience with this game that is very true, which is I think mileage is going to vary on this game. I think if you don't like the Metroidvania genre, or, the issues that I'm currently having, if that sounds like something that would frustrate you, John in the chat says, "Oh, boohoo, I'm not rewarded for failing. What a participation trip, snowflake." No, like he says he's being sarcastic. I understand that. But when there's so many other amazing games right now, like Hades 2 that I'm going to talk about, when I'm having any sort of not fun with a game, because of how much there is available to us right now, call it a problem, sure. But I'm like, okay, I'm going to go play the other thing that I have. That's not going to not be fun at all. You know what I mean? But what else? What am I missing about Animal Well? I went on my own little diatribe. What else do you got about this game?
Yeah, no, that's, as you were talking about, when you get stuck in places, that's one of the things that I really appreciated, because with a lot of Metroidvanias, even, you want to think about Metroid Dread, as one of the titular, games in the genre, right? It still has a linear-esque story that you need to like follow through with. So yeah, obviously there's a lot of exploration, a lot of backtracking, a lot of like finding secrets that you don't have to find, but you can to make yourself stronger, whatever. And the way that Animal Well does it is it's almost reminiscent of the way that Breath of the Wild and Tears of the Kingdom open up, where it's like, okay, you've got this like really, really brief section in Animal Well's case, like literally like maybe 5 minutes worth of like getting out of the opening area. And then there's 4 places you can go to, and you can pick any one of them to go to, complete the objective to get to the credits, which again is only one layer of the game itself because there's so much more to find. But if there's one, let's say, top left, if top left we're getting chased by a ghost, if that's the one that's giving you trouble, maybe try bottom right, maybe try top, bottom left. You can double back, go different areas, solve those puzzles, get that little dopamine hit. I'm stuck on this one, kind of like Portal. Like you get stuck on one puzzle.
For sure.
But when you finally figure it out, when something clicks, it feels so good.
It does. And I did have that moment, the little bit that I got to play right before we recorded, of looking at a room and dying a couple times, and thankfully the save point was like 1 room away, and then figuring like, oh, this is how I get to move this thing or whatever. And then that dopamine hit is really nice. And then what happened to me with that was I figured out the puzzle, and I'm kind of like, going further a little bit. And then I died in another place, and then it sent me back to the save point. And then I had to redo all of it because in this specific thing, once I got past that puzzle, there's so many mechanics in this game, which I also really like, but there's like a switch mechanic. Think of like in Mario, you have like those switches that you press that'll make the outline bricks turn into full bricks. I flipped the switch going into this new area, and then that canceled out all the progress I just made because it cut me off. So I was like, fuck, now I got to do it again. Granted, I was able to do it quickly, but I was like, come on, I just finished it. And like, I get it. Like, I'm sure once I play it more and it starts clicking with me more, I'm going to appreciate that more. But it was one of those things like, man, I don't want to have to do this puzzle again. I got the dopamine rush. Don't make me do it again. You know what I mean?
I hear you.
It's a silly complaint. I will be the first to admit that. But I'm just here to speak my truth. I'm here for the right reasons, Jordan. Rabbit128 in the chat says, do you think it would be as successful if not under big mode? Praised as much, equal sales numbers. Big mode, as you mentioned, is this the first game published? Is that what you said? This is the first game published by Donkey and his wife. What do you think? I'm not as familiar with the Donkey sphere as you are, the Donkey cinematic universe. What do you think about the DCU influencing this so far?
I think that it definitely helped to have that backing. I think it's really cool because I've followed him for a few years now, maybe like not from his beginning, but I remember I think my cousin sent me some video maybe in like 2019 or 2020 that I thought was really funny, and just followed him from there. In 2022, when he was going over like the announcements from like E3 and Summer Game Fest, he pointed out Animal Well as one of the only games that he thought was like truly unique and doing something different from the rest of the pack. And then a year later, he's got his publishing company and he backs it. And it was like, that's like a really cool,
that is cool
journey, so to speak. I mean, he's got, quite the following on YouTube as far as like subscriber count and things like that. So, I mean, I have no doubt that I'm one of the people who knows about Animal Well because of Donkey. Not only because of his publishing company, but because he talked about it so, highly in prior videos. So I do think that it's boosting it. But I also think that, I mean, for people who are Metroidvania freaks, who are indie game freaks, who are pixel art freaks, who are just, weird ass game freaks.
This game is for the freaks. It sounds like.
Whether it's the streets or the sheets, you're gonna find something.
You're gonna be freaky, sure.
I think that there would still be success. I do think that having the backing of Big Mode has helped it elevate it beyond what it could have been. But between its own merit and being added to PlayStation Plus, I think it still would have found success regardless, in my opinion.
I think you're right too, because something that I had originally heard of this by way of kind of funny, and they had mentioned like this has been like every PAX and like all of those kinds of shows that happen. Like this has been in that conversation for a while. So I think I would be willing to bet that if this wasn't Big Mode, it would probably still find a decent amount of success, because the truth is, even though in lots of ways it's not clicking, I wouldn't say lots of ways, that's dramatic. In a few ways it's not clicking with me. I think this game kind of speaks for itself in a lot of ways, of it being really nailing what it's trying to do. I think I can objectively say that for sure, even though not every single thing is kind of aligning for what I want from a game. It's a really well made video game, and I think those there you go. Those kinds of games, when they happen, I think they find their audience.
Yeah,
just by being as good as they are.
Yeah. I mean, speaking of PAX, I mean, friend of the show, Jerica, she played the demo at PAX just the other month.
Just the other month.
Was it last month before? I don't
remember.
I wasn't there.
I wasn't there either. You know who was there though? Jerica.
Shout out to Jerica.
Let's get her back on the show. So yeah, I like I said, I do recommend this game so far. You obviously do too. I can speak for you on that case.
Yeah.
But let us know.
I'll say one more
please
thing, and I'm not going to spoil it, because again, like, it's one of those things that you really do. It sounds so cliche. It's a game that you really need to experience for yourself, whether that means you don't like it or that you do like it, because of all the things that it's doing and all the mechanics and things that you're mentioning. But there was a puzzle that I came across multiple times over the span of a few hours, and I can never figure it out. I was thinking, like, I was like, okay, surely I need to just come from like another angle, like maybe come from the other side of the room to unlock this door that I can't find. And then I just so happened to glance at the map and noticed there's something weird about the room on the map. And that was the key.
That's cool.
Like, something that you could see on the map, but not in the room itself, showed me what to do. I was like, are you kidding me, Billy? You kidding me, Billy Basso?
Come on, Billy. I do love when that kind of stuff happens. So, I will be playing more Animal Well for sure. And, let us know, are you playing Animal Well? And if so, what do you think? Jordan, I had a funny experience. You might not think it's funny, but I did. Last week.
Can't wait.
Last week, I streamed Hades 2 right here on this channel. Just whatever, however many hours exactly a week ago is. That's how many hours ago I streamed Hades here.
I was there.
Twitch.tv. You were there. John was there.
When the Deep Magic was written.
Exactly. We had always loved when our audience supports the live streams. And I played for a couple hours, had a great time. And then I walked away from Hades, and I kind of didn't think about it again. And I was shocked by that, because Hades 2, one of my most anticipated games of the year, because Hades 1, I adored, like a top 20 game for me. Always love everything that studio does. Their name, Supergiant, everything Supergiant does, for the most part, I absolutely adore. And I've been so excited about Hades 2. It hits early access. All the buzz about it is like, how is this in early access? This feels like the full game. But for some reason, I walk away from it after streaming it last week, and I just didn't really. I played it a little bit on my Steam Deck that night, and then didn't touch it for several days. And I was kind of reflecting on that. I sat down. Part of it being busy, part of it I wanted to try out a couple other things. I started playing Hellblade, which I'm going to talk about in a little bit, because I wanted to play that before Senua's saga, Hellblade 2, which I have a qualm with that. We're going to discuss it. And I'm like, you know what? Animal Well's out. I haven't touched it yet. Let me play Animal Well. And I boot it up, and I play about an hour of Animal Well. And I get to that aforementioned part where I just kept dying and kept being slung back to the save point. And I was like, this is very frustrating to me. I want to play a game respectfully that I know is going to feel good from start to finish. So I go and I pick up Hades 2 on my Steam Deck, and I played Hades 2 for like 5 straight hours. It finally clicked for me then. I was like, for whatever reason, and now all I want to do is go play Hades 2.
There you go.
So Animal Well, one thing that this game did for me was bring me back to Hades 2, because that fucking ghost dog in Animal Well. That's all I'll say. And man, Hades 2 is fucking so good, Jordan. You were there with me, as you mentioned. I'm curious to hear what you, like, as a viewer, what Hades 2 looked like to you? Like, like just general vibes. Like, what would you say about what you saw of it, Hades 2, in my experience?
I mean, it looks so clean. I mean,
That's a great
that visual style from the first game just carries over so nicely. And like, of course, all like the power effects and things like that they change it up. It's not all the exact same, or else why would they make the game?
Sure.
But no, it's like you said, that just Supergiant just does something.
Man,
that
they
style.
got a magic sauce with their style. And you said something just then that I want to jump off on, which is
on it.
I'm gonna jump on it, baby. In that, like, they didn't change much. I forget exactly, even though you just said, I forget exactly how you said it. That, you know, it's Hades, but again, like in the way
that they like changed enough as far as like, you know, the move set, the power set.
Yeah, right.
Like you're not just doing Zagreus's exact same move set with the exact same weapons. Like you've got the Malinois's got the magic, and she's got the other like different weapons and things like that. Like, so it's not a carbon copy.
Right. And I think at first my issue was it felt like a carbon copy. And I think that was the way I was playing it, in that because, you know, I put so many hours into Hades 1, I think in the way that I was playing it, I was, you know, trying to do, you know, traverse the maps the way that I did with Zagreus and all these things. And it wasn't until my second long playthrough with it where I started to kind of lean into these other mechanics of combat specifically, because Malinois, she has more of a magic vibe than Zagreus did. Fully aware that I just said his name a different way again. It's gonna happen. And there's the like the quick, you know, I'm playing it on the Steam Deck, so a quick X attack, which is based on whatever weapon you have, you know, whether it's a scythe or a sword or whatever. And then there's like a magic attack. So I don't believe, I might be wrong, I didn't touch Hades 1 before jumping into this. Was magic a thing in Hades 1? Do you remember?
Not so much. I mean,
I don't think it was.
I think that they had I think both games had what they call like the cast ability, but like for Zagreus, I feel like half the time it was like you could like throw a shield if you had what's her face?
I forget. Yeah. But I know what you're talking about.
Yeah.
So okay, so that is new. So there's like a mana bar essentially to compare it to like Final Fantasy. And then there's the cast system, not with an E, with no E. There's no cast with an E system in this game that I'm familiar with. And
I'm out. See ya.
See ya. And because this game at first I was like, why does it feel more difficult for me than Hades 1 did? And I think it's because I wasn't using all the abilities that they give you from the start. Like, I think using the magic and using the cast abilities are very important in this game. And once you start implementing those, man, it feels so good. And like all of the NPCs, like the art of this game is so good, and the voice acting is so good. And every time you come back to the crossroads, which is like the home base of Hades 2, everyone has something new to say. They're referencing the run you just did. Like, the game is so clean from top to bottom, both in the way that it's being presented, but also the way that it's like running too. Like, I've not had a single early access issue so far in like 7 or 8 hours. No crashes, no stuttering, no bugs. Some people had talked about like some of the art assets weren't there. They've all been there for me. I'm in the loop. I've been able to get to the second boss, but I've not been able to defeat the second boss. And I'm going through that experience again of like, okay, I know the trick to beat the first one. Mm-hmm. I can get through the first one just about every time now. Now I just need to get to the second one to try to learn the trick, because I can't quite figure out what is the trick of the second one yet. And that experience, like, it's such a fun loop to go in. And for those of you, if you don't have a PC, I apologize, because you're probably going to want to play this based on what I'm saying if you like the first one, because it's the first one but better. But it's only in early access, and right now they've said their active goal is for it to be in early access the rest of this year. Something tells me I have a little tingle, Jordan.
A Peter tingle.
I have a little Patty tingle. Safe for work. And that Patty Tingle is telling me that I think we might get a full release before end of year, based on just how clean this already is. Like they do a thing which I really like in the menu. They're like, this is our roadmap. And they tell you what's missing. I love a roadmap. Can we just respect to the roadmap? You know what I'm saying? And they say that like the ending of the game is not there. There is no ending to this game currently. And so that I think is the one caveat for me where like if the ending doesn't drop this year, then of course the game's not going to like have a full release this year. But I don't know. Something tells me deep within that we're getting a full release of Hades 2 this year. Do you agree or disagree?
Be honest. I'm leaning disagree just because like I feel like they know the early access route from doing it with Hades 1.
Yeah.
So they would probably know pretty well whether or not they think they could release it this year or not. Of course, I will be.
They're smarter than
very
me.
Happy.
That's for goddamn sure.
I'd be very happy if it was out of early access this year. Screw you and your fantasy points that you would be getting.
Oh
but,
God, I'd be sitting pretty right now, Jordan.
Mm-hmm.
But I got effed.
Animal Well.
Oh yeah, go ahead.
Sorry, it was Animal Well, my highest scoring game on my fantasy league.
There you go. 19 or did it hit 20?
It's still 19, but
19.
Still.
Hey, 19 is a great number.
Yeah. But to answer your actual question that you just tried to ask me before I diverted back to Animal Well.
I did try to ask you. I did try.
I do want to pick up Hades 2. I'm not sure. It's not like on the immediate horizon because right now the horizon is going to be including Senua Saga, as well as. Actually, no, that's about it for right now.
Yeah,
as far as my radar is
concerned. But it'll be a wait and see for you. Maybe after Senua Saga, potentially picking up Hades 2.
Yeah, wait and see as far as budget, not in terms of like expecting to enjoy it. Because I love the first game, even though my achievements were bugged on Xbox. I think I was playing on like the cloud or Game Pass or something, and like I completed a run, like got out of Hades, beat up my dad. Met my mom. Spoiler alert, I guess. Whatever. But that didn't pop for me.
Damn.
Yeah, and that just all that hard work to not get a NFT.
Just another L for Xbox this week. I tell you.
Stop! They're already dead.
Goodness gracious. Rabbit128 unhappy with those spoilers. Jordan, you are in trouble for a game that's.
Tell me how. Tell me how I'm in trouble.
It's not really 12 years old. But so yeah, big fan of Hades 2 so far. I'm sure I'll be talking more about Hades 2. But I will say from the little bit that I've played, it is, I don't know that an early access game will count as game of the year for me, but I could see this easily taking that slot for me. But
anything counts.
Anything counts. But what I hope Jordan could take that slot is Senua Saga Hellblade 2, which drops later this month. And the reason I bring that up,
week from today,
goodness gracious, that is so exciting.
21st.
The reason I bring that up is because the last few days I spent finally finishing and playing, in the opposite order, Hellblade Senua's Sacrifice. This is a game that came out in 2017 from Ninja Theory, and it's the I guess now we would call it the prequel to the one that's coming out next week. And it's funny. I've tried playing this game a few times before. I would say I've probably picked up the sticks like 3 or 4 times with Hellblade. And for whatever reason, I never got past the first like 30 minutes. But it was never because I wasn't interested. It's like I always be like, oh, I'm going to come back to this. And then I just wouldn't. Like things would happen, I would go on to a different game or whatever. And then finally, the last time I picked it up before this time, it was around the time that we got a release date for Senua Sacrifice. And I was like, you know what? Senua Saga, I'm going to wait. I'm going to play this like right before Hellblade 2, because that way, I'll have a clear goal. And then that way, if there are things that like matter carrying over, like, lore wise, narrative wise, then it'll be fresh. And I'm really glad that I did, because 7 hours, maybe you beat it. Yeah. Do you remember how long roughly it took you?
That sounds about right.
Sounds about right. You're right.
Under 10. We'll say under 10.
Yeah. And man, what a special game. People have given a lot of praise to this game in the past. And we've talked about it on the show before. I think actually maybe even a show with you, with the actress that plays Senua, being, working for the studio, and they auditioned so many parts or so many actors for Senua, and they were finally like, actually, do you want to do it because you've been standing in as the part?
Yeah, she was like, she was just a stand-in.
Yeah,
and then they're like, actually, you're kind of crushing this right now,
right?
So.
And then she does go on to crush it and win several awards for her portrayal,
deservedly so.
And man, I was blown away by her in this game. For those of you that don't know what the game is, you follow Senua, who is a Viking.
It's a PICT picked warrior.
Picked.
Yeah.
Cool. And like the thesis statement of the game, and jump in and correct me if I'm wrong here, because you might have done a little more research. I'm just going off what the game told me. Is you play as Senua and you're kind of dealing with psychosis and trying to bring like a loved one to rest, essentially, is kind of how I interpreted it. Is that correct though, Jordan?
I believe that the original goal was she's trying to descend down into hell, like Hel.
Yeah. Helheim.
Yes, Helheim, to bring back her dead lover.
Got it. Okay. Got it.
Like, he was killed by the Northmen, Vikings, whatever you call them.
Yeah.
Like, she had gone away. I'm recalling this because I listened to Kind of Funny talk about it the other day, because it's been a few years since I've played all the way through it. But like, she had gone away to try to deal with what she refers to as her darkness, her psychosis that she's had for like most of her life. And while she's gone, her lover, like the invaders come and her lover is killed. And so she like has a lot of like survivor's guilt, a lot of just, bearing the weight of that. And so she's trying to go down and
that's
alleviate that by
and so that's one of my small qualms with the game, is that after finishing it, like, I'm a little fuzzy on the story details, just with the way that it's presented.
That's fair.
And part of that, I think, is a deliberate choice. I think part of it, because the character is dealing with this psychosis, it works so well, I think, as a gameplay mechanic and a storytelling mechanic. But then with the actual delivery of the story, sometimes things are a little muddy. But there's a really cool thing where it tells you, like, definitely play this game with headphones on. And I played it on the PS5 with the Pulse headsets, the one that came out back then, not the new one. And so that, it's got the 3D audio, but you'll be walking around and there'll be these voices telling you, like, judging you for going the wrong way, and like, you're being battle and they'll say that someone's behind you and you'll turn around and there's no one there. So like, sometimes you can't even trust the voices in your head.
But sometimes there is somebody there.
But sometimes there is. And so it's like this really fun push and pull of, am I going to, as the player, block out these voices and just do it myself? Am I going to lean into it and trust the voices and like see if that'll help me, or is it going to actually end up, making this more difficult for me? And it's just, I think it's such a cool thing that kind of transcends the game, where like, it starts as the player, you start like deciding in the shoes of the character, like, do I want to do this for my own good or not? And it's a really cool thing that they do, that I think, just based like with the actual narrative elements, it just really works. Like, there's a synergy with this gameplay element that really serves the story in the game, I think. And I think a lot of folks ding the gameplay in this game, specifically the combat. I think the combat's great.
I thought the combat was fantastic.
I thought it was fantastic. Like, it very much relies on parrying, but we've gone on record a lot on this podcast that we don't love parrying because usually we're bad at it. But I feel like the window of this game is very gracious.
Fair. Yep.
Very fair. And
it's
there
intense.
are times. So sorry, go ahead.
No, so the combat's intense too.
It's so intense, yeah. And there are times where you'll be overwhelmed with the amount of character or the amount of enemies that you have to fight. But I found, at least in my experience, interestingly, the more difficult the combat was, the more you could trust the voices in your head, like the more that they were actually
on your side.
On your side, which I thought was a really cool, like,
Yeah.
interesting narrative choice there. But yeah, if you've never played Hellblade, I don't remember all the consoles that it's on, but I know it's on PS, Xbox, and PC. I just don't know that it's on Switch. It might be.
It is actually. It is.
It is. Okay.
They ported it. It's been a couple years, but they ported it.
I think this is a must play across the board. Like, I think it's such a cool, unique video game that is definitely worth the experience. My only, I think, note would be if you think the like the mental health aspects of it wouldn't be fun for you, then maybe don't. Like, if you think that that would be something that would sour your experience, or like, be too close to home, then I would say maybe don't.
Yeah,
but
take care of yourself.
For sure. Always. Yeah. Take care of yourself first before you play this game, because I told you to. But man, what a really cool game. And while I did have issues with it, I am so excited for the second one, because I feel like, based on, because this wasn't their first game, but it was such an ambitious project for them for the time, that I think now it's been 7 years. They have the backing of Microsoft, which, these days might not mean much, but they had a lot more money this time in terms of budget. And so I just really hope that this game is going to blow us away, because I have a feeling it might.
Yeah, and I can't let the conversation turn to something else before I throw in, like, just how incredible the Ninja Theory was. You may have already known this, maybe not, because I think there's like a special feature on like the main menu for this, but like they literally went and worked with like mental health institutes, with experts in psychosis, with people who experience psychosis in their daily lives, to make sure that they were representing it in a fair way, in a way that was like true to life, that wasn't stigmatizing. I'm sure that there were probably some very small liberties that they were taking, just because it's a video game. But as far as the overall, like, they really took it to heart. Yeah. They really listened to people who deal with this in their daily life. And like, having worked in the mental health field, having one, kind of two mental health degrees, like, it's something that I've really appreciated about the game over the years. And that it's like, they had like a whole like 2 or 3 hour like symposium a month or two ago, where they were like, we're discussing psychosis and mental health and representations of with like the people from Cambridge or something. It was like it's awesome. It's like, I love that they really put forth the effort to like, and this is not me tooting my own horn. This is just
toot it and boot it.
I like, when I picked the game up on PlayStation 4 back in the day, it was already on my radar. It already sounded cool, but they were running some sort of thing where it was like, maybe it was World Mental Health Day, or some sort of like some sort of similar date on the calendar, where it was like, all sales from this day, all the profits are going to this charity organization for mental health. So I was like, I mean, if I was already going to get the game anyway, might as well put it toward a good cause. Kind of thing.
Yeah, so that's like an easy win.
Yeah. So just shout out to them. I think it's incredible. Melanie Jurgens, I believe is how you pronounce her name, the one who is Senua, like the character, the actress for mocap and for voice. She's a very outspoken mental health advocate for herself. I'm not sure exactly what she deals with, but she just talks about, she has her own mental health struggles, and she really put that into her performance. And it's just, even if you don't think that the game is for you, even if you don't, for whatever reason, I would still encourage you to, it's like a 20-30 minute little documentary that they made back for the first game, about just all the care that they took to make this an authentic experience. And I would encourage you to watch that, because it's really great to see that there are still, as awful as the world is a lot of times, there are still some really good stories to find if you look for them.
Sure. So. Yeah, and I think you hit the nail on the head there, of like, last year I talked so much about Venba as being one of my favorite games of the year, because it introduced me to a culture that I just wasn't very familiar with. And even though this game is set in like a several centuries ago, dealing with like Norse mythology essentially, and like it's very much a culture that doesn't necessarily exist anymore. The character and her experience, seeing what that looks like and feels like, truly, like with playing it with the headphones on, like there are times when like some of the spookiest things I've ever experienced in a video game were in this video game. and it's because of what the character was going through and how good they convey that to the player. So that was like my favorite thing about the game was that, like, yeah, having that, minuscule compared to what the real thing is, I'm sure, but having that experience of like just a like a breath in somebody else's shoes is one of the reasons that I love playing games like this.
For sure. Absolutely.
But I will say, I was reminded when you said her name, Senua. I remember weeks ago, I don't remember if it was on the podcast or just in one of our group chats. You had mentioned
it was a podcast because I made sure to like lean in and say Senua's saga.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. And because of that, I was shocked when I started playing this game, and they go back and forth the whole fucking time saying Senua and Senua. It's crazy. Like certain characters, like in terms of like there would be lots of like voiceover things and like you hear from her mother at times, and you hear from just like other characters in the game at times, and like her mother calls her Senua the entire game. I'm like, how did you do this? So and several years ago they had bigger fish to fry at the time, but I was just so shocked that happened specifically because of the moment on this podcast when you made sure to clarify that that's
when I was being just like an absolute turd about it.
Right, but I really hope that with the next one they're all on the same page, even if that same page is Senua. I just want it to be uniform across the board, because it did drive me a little nuts when
I can't remember what exactly, like why I started being so like nitpicky about it, but it was probably because like all the you wouldn't know that Xbox is backing this game because they just started their marketing like yesterday afternoon.
Correct.
But Ninja Theory themselves have been promoting this game pretty heavily for the past like month or so, and they have like all these behind the scenes like, oh, meet this character, meet this actor behind the character, meet this blah 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 blah, and like every time that one of them talks about it, it's always Senua. So that's why I was like, okay, now let's because there's like 14 pronunciations out in the world right now.
I'm sure I never would have thought that I would pull something like Madam Web as an example here, but
Lord.
I bet it was probably budget reasons. I bet they didn't have the budget to re-record those lines once, like, and maybe they didn't realize it at first that like, oh shit, you're saying the name wrong, and they might not have, because you got to pay the actor to do it again. I'm wondering if, because when they published this game, it was self-published, not under the Xbox umbrella. So,
but you wouldn't know it playing it. This was the first game was a straight up like classic definition of a AA game, and it looks
it looks good,
so good. Like,
yeah, the performance capture in this game is giving like PS5.
Oh, it's absurd.
It's
like,
absurd.
Yeah. So definitely, I'm gonna call myself. I almost said it's insane. Shouldn't.
There you go. You're right. You're right.
Don't do that.
I do that. I'm sure we shouldn't do that. Good point.
I catch myself. This is not a judgment on anybody. It's hard to break those habits.
Sure. We're all learning
about it. Yeah, exactly.
We're all learning and listening. I almost called you Cayman. How about that, Jordan? I think we got time for one more game. And I know when we were talking pre-show, there were technically 3 other games that we might discuss. So I want to let you pick, and it can be one that only you have played. If you really want to talk about Final Fantasy 12, you're more than welcome to. But between the 3 that we have left, what would you like to discuss?
Well, let's talk about Tales of Kenzera.
Great.
But before that, just real quick, I want to shout out. I got my Sea of Stars physical edition.
Oh hell yeah!
Came in. It is so beautiful.
Hold on. Let me give you the one.
Yeah, it is so beautiful. Just has this like beautiful slip cover with a different art, and like inside it's got this like 40-page art book and these like stickers. It's just like, it's beautiful. I love it. But it arrived yesterday, which was 2 weeks to the day of me finally going back and getting the platinum trophy.
Look at that.
And this again, just one more quick thing, like Sea of Stars is what launched, quote unquote, like me doing all this content creation stuff. Like I'd had the idea of doing, something as far as like video essays. I love like Jacob Geller and like people like that do these like really, really cool, interesting video essays. And so I liked the idea of doing it, but I was like waiting for the right thing. I was like, what about this? What about this? And then I played through Sea of Stars and I was like, it's this. This is cool. it's really, rudimentary. The editing and the voiceover is probably not my best work, but like that was my first actual video essay was about Sea of Stars.
Awesome.
So it's a really special game to me. So I was really glad to finally get that platinum. But yeah, that was a couple days after finishing Tales of Kenzera, which was on my radar from the Game Awards. I'm sure most of you probably already know from either watching that yourself or listening to our draft episodes and catch ups that like Abubakar Salim came up on stage and was talking about, founding his Surgeon Studios, I believe is the name of it.
Yeah.
And wanting to get into game development. And this first game is about, the character is a reflection of himself as far as having lost his father and trying to deal with the grief of losing his father. And it's in a fantastical setting. It's like to my knowledge, Kenzera is not an actual region of Africa.
Yeah, I don't believe so.
I think it's completely fictional. Yeah. But it's like you're basically playing through a story within a story kind of a thing where the main character, who I forget the actual real life character's name, but is reading a story that his now deceased father had written in an effort to try to help him process, because I think it was like maybe it was cancer. It was some sort of thing where like his father knew that he didn't have too much time left, and so he wrote this story for his son. And then the equivalent of the son's name within that story is Zau, Zau. So he starts off by just pleading to the god of death to return his father to him, and there is some sort of myth within their culture that like, okay, so if there's a story that if I can release these three spirits who have escaped death, who've eluded death, then you will grant me one wish, and that wish would be to return my father to me. So that's kind of like the basis of the game. It's another Metroidvania, so of course I played it. And honestly, it's one that I'm a little bit more lukewarm on. We were talking, I wasn't there. You and Cayman, were discussing, 7s, 6s, whatever. Like, this is a game for me that will be in that range, which again, to me, still says I can recommend it. Like a 3 out of 5. Like it's over the halfway mark. It's doing more right than it's doing wrong. The way that they do weave in those themes of grief and loss, the voice acting to from Abubakar and the other rest of the cast to discuss those themes, really well done. I liked how they implemented all of that. I liked the movement. The traversal feels really good for the most part. The art style is gorgeous.
Oh yeah, it's such a pretty game to look at.
Yes, the colors and the environments, it's largely just really pretty. There were a couple of like major things that really dragged it down. I know that I even like sent probably in the Discord, join it, talk about games. Where like, this is not really spoiling it. So you have sun powers and moon powers.
Yes. Sun
is exclusively melee focused. Moon powers is mostly range with like one, like kind of like a melee / deflection option. But after maybe like an hour and a half of gameplay, enemies start to have shields that are, at first it's just a white shield that can be broken with anything. And then it moves on to red and blue shields or blue and orange, whatever, that can only be broken by the corresponding power. And the combat is just so wildly unbalanced.
It's so unbalanced.
It is awful. Like, you will knock down this shield, but then if you get hit once, you fly to Timbuktu, and you have to come back. And by the time you come back to that enemy, their shield is regenerated again. And then, like, at first, it's you got 2-3 enemies at once. Maybe one has a shield. And then by the time you get getting toward the end game, it's like you've got 5, 6, 7 enemies. Some are in the air, some are on the ground, some have blue shield, some have a orange shield, and it is maddening. And I ended up like, after I think I was somewhere in Act 3, Act 4, toward the end of the game, and I just turned the difficulty down. I was like, I want to finish this game. I want to see this story through, but I want to scream. Like, I probably did scream. I don't know. Like,
I didn't even get that far in, and I wanted to scream, but I haven't gone back since I last played it.
Yeah, because like, I mean, it's it's not uncommon in Metroidvanias to do this, where I mean, and even like Doom will do this, where it's like, you know, you get to a certain room, area, whatever, and then it blocks you off, and
Right, right.
you can't move forward until you kill all the enemies, and then they'll be like 3, 4, 5 waves. I'm like, are you kidding me? Like, so that was like for for a Metroidvania that is combat focused to have frustrating combat is not it's not great. It's not a good look.
Yeah, it's the kind of thing where I'm willing to bet, because I really hope they get a second game. I'm willing to bet
I do.
a second game once they have more experience under their belt. More won't necessarily be the thing to make it more difficult, right? Like I feel like that is a trap with like less developed games, and I don't mean that in a mean way by any means, but like it's an easy way to make something harder is just by putting more of them there. But like there's more
Yeah.
nuanced ways, there's smarter ways to make a game harder than just okay, let's just triple the amount of enemies. Like that, you know what I mean? And like that's just
Yeah.
not fun when that's the thing.
Yeah, agreed. And like the combat itself too, like both the combat and some of the traversal abilities, specifically in the late game, like again, a lot of these abilities are tied to either the sun or the moon. Some things like double jumping, that's universal. And there is like special attacks that are specific to each of the things, but like I feel like the combat didn't evolve enough. Like it didn't you weren't able to upgrade things in a way that actually made your life that much easier. Like maybe you get like 1 or 2 new attacks, but for the most part, you're still
Sure.
using the same like 2 or 3 things that you learned in the tutorial. So it's not like, oh, it's got to be rough right here in the first 2 hours, but then for the back 5 hours, I'm gonna be just getting exponentially stronger.
Right.
And it didn't quite feel like that, which again is like for a combat focused Metroidvania, like a Metroid Dread, like a Prince of Persia. Even in Ultros, like you want to feel that like the power, you want to feel it, but you don't.
Yeah.
And so this is something that's in a lot of games, so it's not like a spoiler to say it's in this one, but like like the Uncharted's, the even Prince of Persia, I'm sure like there would be certain sections where it's like kind of like a scripted thing where you're trying to outrun something or someone.
Yeah.
There are 2 of those in Zau, and both of them made me want to throw an animal down the well. Like it was so.
Well, we're back. I didn't expect that to be the way we were back, but we're back.
Don't call it a comeback. No, it was like completely just unfair in my professional opinion. Like one of them, not to spoil the specific details, but there is whatever's happening for this specific chase / escape sequence, like makes the environment itself harder to see what's happening. Which does not help when you need to know exactly when to use this ability to get out of this. Yeah, so there were some things like that really dragged it down for me. But as you're saying, like combined with what I was saying, like it does more right than it is wrong as far as like the ideas that it was having. The art style is still gorgeous. Like a lot of the movement, like just the jumping and like bouncing off the walls, like that all feels really good. Like there's optional platforming challenges that are really cool to do. And I really do hope that they have another shot at a game, because like for this being his, going from the acting world as a video game fan to starting a game development studio, and this is the first product. Like this is an impressive first product,
a really impressive first product.
Even if there's parts of it that I like shake a stick at, like this is still impressive.
Yeah,
and I still want to see more from what he can do. And especially like in a space where we could always use more Black voices of color to come in here and like not everything's set in Europe and America. Like this is like an African story through and through, and that was a really cool aspect of it too. That like when it comes to games like this that do things like that, whether it's Senua Saga that'll do their Sacrifice, whichever one. Like anytime that games put me in a setting other than what I'm used to, it makes me curious. Like I go up and I'm like, Prince of Persia did this too, where it was like they'll be talking about these characters, these like deities, and I'm like, oh, this, I forget what it was called, the like the spectral bird in Prince of Persia, like that's an actual mythological creature in cool. Persian folklore. That's cool. Or Iranian folklore, and like Kalunga is a god in certain cultures in Africa. So it was like, this is like really, really cool to like look through and read and just learn a little bit of something, even if it's not something you're going to apply to the rest of your life necessarily. It's
for sure.
It's fun to learn.
I agree, and that's one of my biggest takeaways from this game is other than I hope that they get a second crack at it, is like, why aren't we getting more games in some way, shape, or form set within like African culture, because it's such a rich culture to pull from that I think there's so much there that video games have barely even scratched the surface of. There have been a few, but very, very few. So yeah, definitely agree with you there. I hope to get back to it. I don't know that I'll be getting back to it anytime soon.
I was gonna say, like, do you plan on finishing it, or do you?
I would like to, but I think it'll be like finish Animal Well, get through Hellblade 2, like finish all these other games, and then eventually I do admit I want to play Prince of Persia before I go back to Tales of Kenzera Zau, because I've only played the very first hour of that game, if that. And then Final Fantasy VII Rebirth happened, and that pulled me away. And so, which I also need to finish, because then my PlayStation died, and I have a real.
Okay, yeah, you have reasons. Okay, yeah, I rescind my Patrick.
So I do hope to get back to Tales of Kenzera Zau, but I don't know that it'll be anytime soon. And there is a big chance that I don't get back to it, but I would like to. That's all I can say.
It is on the PlayStation Plus mid to upper tiers for anyone who's interested in it. I definitely still, again, I know that I had a mix of things to say there, but I do check it out for yourself.
Yeah.
Show some love to the
show some love. Well, Jordan, that's our show.
There it is.
We've also been playing. You've been playing Final Fantasy 12. We've also both dabbled a little bit in Fallout 76, but the truth is, if we wanted to talk about those more, we would have. So take with that what you will. Jordan, where can the folks at home follow you on socials if they don't already?
Yeah, Threads and Instagram is where I'm most active, just Cognitive Clips on there. I'm also probably a little bit too active in the Spotlight Games Discord, but it's a lot of fun being in there chatting.
Is there such a thing?
Folks. Yeah, I don't know. You tell me. You slide in my DMs and say, "Hey, cool it."
Hey, shut the fuck up,
bro! Come on. There's an entire. I almost felt bad for everybody else who was in the Discord, because there's an entire like 5 minutes of just me, you, and Cayman just coming up with the different puns on my username there.
Oh, sure. We get crazy in there. We get crazy.
We do.
Come join the Discord.
Then, those video essays and such, you can find me on YouTube at Cognitive Clips as well. If you search, youtube.com/@cognitive-clips, and there I will be.
There you will be. You can follow me at Patrick Schwag. You can follow the pod at Spot Games Pod on Twitter, which some people call a letter, but I will never. Or you can follow me on, or you can follow the pod on Instagram, TikTok, right here on Twitch and on YouTube at Spotlight Games Pod. I'm also technically on Threads, but the truth is I barely ever use it. And until I start using it,
I tag you sometimes, but
well, thanks, buddy. I need to learn how to use another one, but I don't know that I want to. I don't know that I want to, Jordan.
It's like the line from Deadpool from the actor who we don't like to talk about anymore, where he says, "I'd come with you, but I don't want to."
Exactly. But thanks for being here, John. Thanks for being in the chat. I don't think Cayman's been here for a while, but if you're still here listening, thanks for being here, Cayman. We hope you feel better. We'll see you next week, hopefully, fingers crossed, but no pressure. But until next week, reminder, we are not here tomorrow night with The Last of Us Part 2, but we will return next week.
Coward.
Yeah, I'm a coward. I know. Jordan, thanks for being here. Patrick, thanks for being here. You're welcome, Patrick. Until next week, bye-bye.